What's up, amazing people? This is Azim from Give Me 5 and we are finally making a comeback after a long while. We are bringing you our new and improved lineup of contents, starting with our one-stop shop for everything gaming, Give Me 5 XP. We are kicking it off with arguably one of the most anticipated gaming sequels to ever come out, Last of Us Part 2. Boy oh boy, Naughty Dog, you bunch of freaking geniuses. How do you do this every single time that you release a game and it turns out to be a complete masterpiece? Don't worry, this is gonna be a completely spoiler-free review, but if you want to go into this game absolutely without any prior knowledge or context, and this is what we sort of suggest, then you have still time to back out. So we start off 4 years after where we left off at Last of Us Part 1, and we are sort of settling down to a much more pleasant pace, or so what we thought. Things goes to shit pretty fast, pretty bad. Which I'm pretty sure you got the idea from the trailers and from the pre-hype that was going on around this game. So let me be clear about this. Last of Us 2 is a game that makes Game of Thrones look like a cute bedtime story in terms of sheer brutality. And if you are going into this game with an expectation of having a very blissful or a very fulfilling time that gives you a very good feeling about this game, then this is a very wrong expectation to have. And unlike Last of Us 1, which sort of gave you a completion and ending and overall a very warm feeling about this game, about the relation of Joel and Ellie, this game at times is going to completely wreck you. So the first thing that we loved the most about this game and this new edition is probably the most obvious one, and that is the gameplay. So the gameplay is quite similar to what we got accustomed to in The Last of Us Part 1, but it's even more better, it's even more swift, and at the same time it provides you with a certain amount of tweaking and fine-tunings that you required for it to be a different and let's say an upgrade to The Last of Us Part 1. The game still relies heavily on stealth, and in order to fight off the infecteds and the human enemies with a complete arsenal of weapons and upgrades, you really need to collect those resources whenever you get the opportunity. Don't rush into this game, take your time, explore, look at the beautiful and wonderful creation and graphics that is available in the game. And as far as open world goes, this is leaps and bounds ahead from Last of Us Part 1. You could really go into different locations and explore them, find out new elements to work with, and there are some little additions to this game that I'm pretty sure you have already seen, but we are not going to talk about in the spoiler-free edition. But those little things give this game a whole new meaning in terms of exploring. And yes, sometimes the exploring could get a little bit tedious if you are playing on a more higher difficulty level. Gathering those resources sometimes can be really hard, but trust me on this, if you have the resources always available in your arsenal, it makes life a lot more easier whenever you encounter a group of enemies, be it infected or be it the human enemies. So it's always suggested to explore and have those resources compiled for a rainy day. Okay, now the second thing that we love the most about this game are the enemies. So we all know there are two groups of enemies, the infected ones and the humans one, and they have really diversified, and the near 30 to 40 hours of gameplay that you get is absolutely filled with completely new elements when it comes to fighting off enemies. Whenever you think that you have figured it out in terms of how to approach one enemies and how to get the best of them, the game always comes up with something new to challenge you even further. So when it comes to the human enemies, there are two groups that you have to fight off, the one being the WLF, the Washington Liberation Front, and the Seraphites are also known as the Scars. So both of these groups has their unique, let's say, threats when it comes to facing them off, and whenever you face them off, there are always different dangers, there are always different type of risks that you have to take in terms of stealth. And one thing that some people really like, some people probably didn't like that much, is the addition of dogs that we have seen in the trailers a lot, and these dogs definitely makes your life harder. So whenever you are capitalizing on the stealth and maneuvering around to get the best of the opponents, these dogs can really bite you in the you know what. And in terms of the infected ones, there are also some new additions to this game as well. The clickers, the bloaters, the runners that we have seen in The Last of Us Part 1. There are some interesting developments throughout the game where you encounter new infected ones, which we will not be talking about in details in this edition, because we believe that will somewhat spoil the game. So it's better to go knowing as little information as possible regarding the infected ones. So the next thing we want to talk about in this game are the details. This is an insanely detailed game, and what we experienced in Last of Us Part 1, if we take some cues from it, we were not, to be honest, really expecting that amount of details to be added in Last of Us Part 2. Now we definitely knew it's going to be a bigger game, it's definitely going to be a better game in terms of details, but it really took us by surprise the amount of details that were actually put into this game. Now we can talk about a lot of stuff, including the enemies, the exploring, the killings, and the whole upgrades and tweakings and everything. But what really stood out for us are the graphics. It's an insanely good graphics and probably one of the best PS4 exclusives to come out in terms of graphics. And the second thing is the aging of the characters. So we jump back from timeline to timeline in different ages and different lifetimes of those characters, and in each of the timelines it feels so natural. The aging is so visible and it's so clear to look at. It gives a certain amount of attachment with the characters that we play, and at no point of time you feel like it's not natural. So the last and the best thing about this game, the storyline. Now we do realize some of you will not agree with us and some of you already rushing towards that unlike button, but here's how. So you see, Naughty Dog could so easily have chosen the easy way out and stuck to a little bit more comfortable and regular revenge storytelling storyline, but what they did is something really game changing for us, pun intended. So what this storyline does really well is actually dividing the whole gaming fan base, because whatever complaints you might have regarding this story is something that also makes this game so different. It's a dark game, we do realize that, we understand it's one of the most darkest game that we have ever played, but it's so beautifully written, it's so beautifully crafted that this story provides you with a certain amount of emotions and it triggers those responses, and this is what makes this game even more brilliant. The responses you give to this game is something that game really demands and invokes, and this is what makes this game even more brilliant to us. So now if we look at the other side of the coin, the things that we didn't like as much as the other elements in this game, thankfully there are not actually a lot of things to talk about in this aspect. There are only a certain few things that we didn't like about this game, starting off with the pacing. Now we did say that the game is crafted to almost perfection, and that's where the pacing comes in, almost. When you are actually exploring the game and in higher difficulty levels, the exploring sometimes can get a little bit tedious at times. You see, you always need a good amount of resources to fight the enemies, to fight off the infecteds, but in order to have those resources in place, you have to really explore a lot, and that exploring, even though is really fun and really engaging, but sometimes it can make the game look a little bit longer than it is, so it might have a little bit of negative impact in some of the gamers. The second thing we want to talk about is a bit of a bummer. In terms of exploration, if you accidentally trigger the cutscene, then you cannot really move back to the point that you left off at, and that means you are leaving behind some vital resources and some trophies as well. So I think with an update or probably going forward into this game, Naughty Dog will probably fix this. So this is one of those points that we really want to highlight in terms of what we didn't like about this game. So the last and the final thing that we didn't really like about this game includes some of the gameplays with a different character other than Ellie. We will not be talking about in details regarding that in this spoiler-free edition. To know more about that, stick with us for the spoiler talks of Last of Us Part 2. So guys, this was our take on one of the most anticipated games to ever come out, Last of Us Part 2. In short, this is a more than a worthy successor to Last of Us Part 1. An incredible gameplay, a brilliant storyline, dazzling graphics. Yeah, some minor flaws here and there, but altogether we give this an incredible 9 out of 10.
What the hell are you doing here?
You think I'd let you do this on your own?
So guys, what did you think about Last of Us Part 2? Played it, looking forward to it, loved it, hated it? Let us know in the comment section below. And if you like this video and want to see more videos like this, a thumbs up and a sub would do us a world of good. This is Azim from Give Me 5, signing off. Stay amazing and gather up those XPs.